The year was 1980. Funky Town by Lip Sync was grooving on the radio. The Empire Strikes Back stunned audiences in theaters. And Dallas had everyone asking, who shot JR? But 1980 was also a groundbreaking year for video games, kicking off a new era in arcades and home consoles. Let's dive into the top 10 games that defined that year. Let's get started. Kicking things off at number 10, we have Phoenix. Phoenix was a trailblazing fixed shooter where players blasted waves of alien birds, culminating in epic boss battles against motherships. Its vibrant graphics and layered enemy patterns set it apart in arcades. Phoenix was one of the first games to feature distinct enemy phases, influencing the shoot-'em-up genre for decades. At number 9, let's talk about Crazy Climber. Crazy Climber put players in the boots of a daring skyscraper scaler, dodging falling flower pots and angry condors to reach the top. Its unique dual joystick controls demanded precision and grit. The game's arcade cabinet used 2 joysticks to mimic climbing, a novel control scheme that made it a standout in crowded arcades. Number 8 brings us Wizard of War. Wizard of War was a maze shooter where players navigated dungeons to battle monsters and the elusive Warlook, with intense co-op or competitive multiplayer. Its spooky vibe and voice effects were chilling. The game's synthesized speech, like "Beware, I am the Wizard of War," was a rare and eerie feature for 1980 arcades. Sliding into number 7, we find Battlezone. Battlezone was a pioneering 3D tank shooter using wireframe graphics to create a first-person battlefield where players faced off against enemy tanks. Its immersive perspective was revolutionary. Atari developed a military version of Battlezone for the US Army, adapting its tech for tank training simulations. At number 6, we have Zork 1, The Great Underground Empire. Zork was a text adventure masterpiece, plunging players into a rich fantasy world of treasure and danger with no graphics, just vivid prose and clever puzzles. It defined early PC gaming. The game was born from MIT's mainframe computers, where its creators split a massive project into 3 parts, making Zork 1 accessible on home PCs. Number 5 is Berserk. Berserk threw players into electrified mazes filled with relentless robots and the menacing evil Otto, blending fast-paced shooting with a claustrophobic atmosphere. Its voice synthesis was a novelty. Berserk's evil Otto was one of gaming's first unkillable enemies, designed to keep players on the run and heighten tension. At number 4, we have Rogue. Rogue was the godfather of roguelikes, introducing procedurally generated dungeons, permadeath, and turn-based exploration. Its graphics belied a deep, replayable adventure. Created by 2 college students, Michael Toy and Glenn Wichman, Rogue's randomized design inspired countless games, from Diablo to Spelunky. Number 3 is Adventure. Adventure on the Atari 2600 was a groundbreaking action-adventure where players explored castles, battled dragons, and sought a magical chalice in a pixelated kingdom. It pioneered the genre. The game hid gaming's first Easter egg, a secret room with creator Warren Robinette's name, defying Atari's policy of not crediting developers. At number 2, we have Missile Command. Missile Command was an intense arcade classic where players defended cities from a barrage of missiles with strategic, cursor-based targeting. Its Cold War themes hit hard in 1980. Designer Dave Thurer was inspired by real fears of nuclear war, giving the game a haunting urgency that resonated with players. And finally, at the top spot, number 1 is Pac-Man. Pac-Man became a global phenomenon, with its simple yet addictive maze-chasing gameplay, iconic characters like Blinky and Clyde, and a cultural impact that's still felt today. Its colorful design drew in players of all ages. Creator Toru Iwatani designed Pac-Man to appeal to women, inspired by a pizza with a slice missing, shaping its universal charm. And there you have it, folks. The top 10 games of 1980, each a pioneer that laid the foundation for modern gaming. What's your favorite from this list? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this trip down memory lane, smash that like button and don't forget to subscribe. Up next, 1981. The year was 1981. Betty Davis Eyes by Kim Carnes topped the charts. Raiders of the Lost Ark thrilled moviegoers, and Dynasty brought drama to our TVs. But 1981 was also a golden year for video games, with arcades thriving and home consoles gaining steam. Let's dive into the top 10 games that defined that year. Let's get started. Kicking things off at number 10, we have Bosconian. Bosconian was a multi-directional shooter where players piloted a starship through space, blasting enemy bases and fleets in a free-roaming battlefield. Its vibrant visuals and strategic depth were arcade standouts. Bosconian introduced a radar system to track enemies across its expansive maps, a feature that added a tactical edge to the chaos. At number 9, let's talk about Zaxxon. Zaxxon was a visually striking space shooter, using isometric 3D graphics to create a thrilling fortress assault filled with enemies and obstacles. Its pseudo-3D perspective was a technical marvel. Sega's Zaxxon pioneered the isometric view in arcades, tricking players into feeling depth on a 2D screen, setting a new visual standard. Number 8 brings us Scramble. Scramble was a side-scrolling shooter that sent players through caves and enemy bases, dodging missiles and refueling mid-flight. Its relentless pace and varied terrain kept players on edge. The game's forced scrolling mechanic, pushing players forward through hazardous levels, was a groundbreaking feature that shaped future shooters. Sliding into number 7, we find Castle Wolfenstein. Castle Wolfenstein was an early stealth action game on the Apple II, where players infiltrated a Nazi fortress to escape with secret plans. Its top-down view and tense gameplay were gripping. Creator Silas Warner used digitized speech for enemy guards, a rare 1981 feature that added an immersive, eerie atmosphere. At number 6, we have Tempest. Tempest was a dazzling arcade shooter, with players controlling a claw-like ship, blasting enemies on a 3D wireframe tube. Its frenetic pace and vector graphics were mesmerizing. Designer Dave Thurer drew inspiration from a dream about monsters crawling out of a hole, shaping Tempest's unique and intense gameplay. Number 5 is Defender. Defender, a 1980 arcade sensation, hit the Atari in 1981, bringing its side-scrolling space defense to homes. Players saved humans from alien abductors in a fast-paced challenge. The port was a technical feat, squeezing complex arcade mechanics into a cartridge despite the console's limited hardware. Halfway through at number 4, we have Centipede. Centipede, a 1980 arcade hit, reached the Atari in 1981, letting players blast a descending insect horde in a mushroom-filled garden. Its addictive gameplay captivated home audiences. Co-designed by Donna Bailey, one of gaming's first female programmers, Centipede brought a fresh perspective to the arcade scene. Number 3 is Frogger. Frogger tasked players with guiding a frog across busy roads and treacherous rivers, dodging cars and leaping on logs. Its simple yet challenging design made it an arcade sensation. Konami's Frogger turned the mundane idea of crossing a street into a thrilling survival challenge, resonating with players of all ages. At number 2, we have Galaga. Galaga refined the fixed shooter formula with enemy formations that swooped and captured your ship, adding strategic depth to its addictive gameplay. It kept arcade quarters flowing. The game's challenge stages, rewarding precision shooting with bonus points, were a novel addition that hooked players. And finally, at the top spot, 1 is Donkey Kong. Donkey Kong introduced Mario, then Jumpman, climbing girders to rescue Pauline from a barrel-tossing ape. Its platforming and storytelling were revolutionary for arcades. Shigeru Miyamoto created Donkey Kong to salvage unsold arcade cabinets, turning a business flop into one of gaming's biggest icons. And there you have it, folks. The top 10 games of 1981, each a pioneer that pushed gaming forward in the arcade golden age. What's your favorite from this list? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this trip down memory lane, smash that like button and don't forget to subscribe. Up next, 1982. The year was 1982. Don't You Want Me by the Human League was topping the charts. E.T. the Extraterrestrial melted hearts in theaters, and MASH aired its emotional finale on TV. But 1982 was also a banner year for video games, with arcades thriving and home consoles bringing the action home. Let's dive into the top 10 games that defined that year. Let's get started. Kicking things off at number 10, we have Tron. Tron was an arcade gem inspired by Disney's sci-fi film, featuring 4 distinct minigames like light cycle races and tank battles, capturing the movie's digital world. Its glowing visuals were a draw. Bally Midway rushed Tron to arcades to coincide with the film's release, making it one of the first movie tie-ins to nail the source material. At number 9, let's talk about Q*bert. Q*bert was a quirky puzzle platformer where players hopped a cube pyramid, changing colors while dodging enemies like Coily the Snake. Its unique design and catchy sounds were unforgettable. The game's gibberish speech, resembling cartoon swears, was a playful touch added to give Q*bert a mischievous personality. Number 8 brings us Microsoft Flight Simulator. Microsoft Flight Simulator brought realistic aviation to the IBM PC, letting players pilot a Cessna across virtual skies with detailed flight mechanics for 1982. Its technical ambition was staggering. Originally developed by Sublogic, Microsoft's version was a pioneering step in bringing simulation to home computers. Sliding into number 7, we find Donkey Kong Jr. Donkey Kong Jr. flipped the script from its predecessor, casting players as DK's son rescuing his dad from Mario. Its platforming and vine-climbing mechanics kept arcades buzzing. Shigeru Miyamoto expanded the Donkey Kong universe with new enemies like crocodiles setting the stage for future Nintendo classics. At number 6, we have Robotron 2084. Robotron 2084 was a frenetic twin-stick shooter, tasking players with saving humans from robot swarms in a dystopian future. Its dual joystick controls were intense and groundbreaking. Creator Eugene Jarvis designed Robotron to deliver pure adrenaline, pushing players' reflexes to the limit with its chaotic pace. Number 5 is Pole Position. Pole Position was a groundbreaking racing game, offering a behind-the-wheel perspective and realistic track designs that made players feel like F1 drivers. Its arcade cabinets roared with energy. Namco's game was one of the first to use a steering wheel controller, setting a standard for racing games that followed. Halfway through at number 4, we have Joust. Joust was a unique arcade hit, where players rode flying ostriches, battling knights in a medieval-inspired arena. Its cooperative multiplayer and flapping mechanics were wildly inventive. Designer John Newcomer crafted Joust to feel like a sky-bound joust, blending strategy with fast-paced action. Number 3 is Dig Dug. Dig Dug had players tunneling underground, inflating enemies like pukas and figars with a pump until they popped. Its colorful design and strategic digging were addictive. Namco's game was inspired by the idea of carving your own path, making every level a player-driven maze of destruction. At number 2, we have Pitfall. Pitfall was a landmark Atari game where players as Pitfall Harry swung through jungles, dodging crocodiles and scorpions in a 20-minute adventure. It defined console platformers. Creator David Crane coded Pitfall in just 10 months, crafting one of the first games to feel like a full adventure on a home console. And finally, at the top spot, number 1 is Ms. Pac-Man. Ms. Pac-Man improved on Pac-Man with new mazes, smarter ghosts, and a female lead who became a gaming icon. Its fast-paced gameplay kept players feeding quarters. Originally an unauthorized sequel by Midway, Ms. Pac-Man was so successful that Namco adopted it as official, cementing her legacy. And there you have it, folks. The top 10 games of 1982, each a pioneer that pushed gaming forward in the arcade golden age. What's your favorite from this list? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this trip down memory lane, smash that like button and don't forget to subscribe. Up next, 1983. The year was 1983. Every Breath You Take by The Police was dominating the charts. Return of the Jedi thrilled audiences in theaters. And the A-Team brought action to our TVs. But 1983 was also a pivotal year for video games, despite the industry crash, with arcades delivering iconic titles. Let's dive into the top 10 games that defined that year. Let's get started! Kicking things off at number 10, we have Mappy. Mappy put players in control of a mouse cop chasing cat burglars through a mansion, collecting loot while bouncing on trampolines. Its charming design and quick reflexes were arcade gold. Namco's Mappy featured a bonus round where players caught balloons, a playful twist that kept quarters dropping. At number 9, let's talk about Elevator Action. Elevator Action cast players as a spy infiltrating a skyscraper, using elevators to sneak past guards and steal secrets. Its blend of stealth and shooting was slick and innovative. Taito's game was one of the first to mix platforming with espionage, inspiring later action games with its urban setting. Number 8 brings us track and field. Track and field brought Olympic-style competition to arcades, with players mashing buttons to run, jump, and throw in events like the 100-meter dash. Its competitive energy was infectious. Konami's game was inspired by the 1984 Olympics hype, turning athletic feats into a button-bashing frenzy. Sliding into number 7, we find Bomberman. Bomberman, originally released as Bomberman in Japan, had players planting bombs in a maze to clear enemies and blocks, with fast-paced strategy and multiplayer chaos. Its simple premise was addictive. Hudson Soft's game laid the groundwork for a franchise that's still blowing up today with its iconic bomb-dropping gameplay. At number 6, we have Spy Hunter. Spy Hunter put players behind the wheel of a weaponized car, dodging enemies and firing missiles in a high-speed chase inspired by James Bond. Its driving action was thrilling. The game's iconic Peter Gunn theme music and transforming car mechanics made every mission feel like a spy movie. Number 5 is Mario Brothers. Mario Bros. Introduced Luigi alongside Mario in a cooperative arcade platformer, battling critters in a sewer-like stage. Its multiplayer focus and tight controls were a hit. Nintendo's game marked the first time the Mario Brothers teamed up, setting the stage for their legendary partnership. Halfway through at number 4, we have Punch-Out! Punch-Out! Was an arcade boxing classic, where players as Little Mac dodged and weaved against colorful opponents like Glass Joe. Its timing-based combat was intense and rewarding. The game's oversized, cartoonish boxers were inspired by real boxing personalities, giving each fight a unique flair. Number 3 is Dragon's Lair. Dragon's Lair was a visual spectacle using laser disc technology to deliver animated cutscenes as players guided Dirk the Daring through a fantasy castle. Its movie-like quality was jaw-dropping. Animator Don Bluth, fresh off Disney, crafted the game's stunning visuals, making it a pricey but unforgettable arcade experience. At number 2, we have Lode Runner. Lode Runner was a puzzle platformer where players dug holes to trap enemies and grab gold in intricate levels. Its level editor let players create their own challenges, a revolutionary feature. Broderbund's game was a hit on home computers like the Apple II, blending strategy with fast-paced action. And finally, at the top spot, number 1 is Star Wars. Star Wars was an arcade triumph, letting players pilot an X-Wing in a 3D vector graphic assault on the Death Star, complete with digitized movie voices. Its immersive action was pure science fiction magic. Atari's game used advanced vector tech to recreate iconic film moments, making players feel like rebel heroes. And there you have it, folks. The top 10 games of 1983, each a pioneer that shone bright, despite the arcade industry's struggles. What's your favorite from this list? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this trip down memory lane, smash that like button and don't forget to subscribe. Up next, 1984. The year was 1984. When Dove's Cry by Prince was ruling the charts, Ghostbusters busted its way into theaters, and Miami Vice brought neon cool to our TVs. But 1984 was also a landmark year for video games, with arcades innovating and home systems like the NES starting to shine. Let's dive into the top 10 games that defined that year. Let's get started. Kicking things off at number 10, we have The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy was a text adventure based on Douglas Adams's sci-fi comedy, where players navigated the galaxy with wit and a towel. Its clever writing was a standout. Infocom collaborated with Adams himself, ensuring the game's humor matched the book's absurd charm, like solving puzzles with a Babel fish. At number 9, let's talk about Kung Fu Master. Kung Fu Master was a side-scrolling beat-'em-up where players fought through floors of enemies to rescue Sylvia. Its fast-paced martial arts action set a new arcade standard. The game, inspired by Bruce Lee films and Jackie Chan's Spartan X, was a pioneer for the beat-'em-up genre, influencing titles like Double Dragon. Number 8 brings us Boulder Dash. Boulder Dash had players as Rockford, digging through caves to collect gems while avoiding falling rocks and enemies. Its strategic puzzling and charming graphics were addictive. First Star Software's game was a hit on home computers like the Atari 800, with a level editor that let players craft their own challenges. Sliding into number 7, we find Balloon Fight. Balloon Fight was an early NES title where players floated with balloons, popping enemies' balloons while dodging lightning. Its simple yet frantic gameplay was pure Nintendo fun. Shigeru Miyamoto drew inspiration from Joust, adapting its aerial combat into a whimsical, family-friendly experience. At number 6, we have Excitebike. Excitebike revved up the NES with motocross racing, letting players design tracks and manage bike heat for high-speed thrills. Its tight controls made every jump exhilarating. Nintendo's game included a track editor, a rare feature in 1984 that sparked creativity among players on the new console. Number 5 is Marble Madness. Marble Madness was an arcade sensation where players guided a marble through isometric mazes, dodging obstacles with precise trackball controls. Its innovative design was mesmerizing. Atari's game was one of the first to use a trackball extensively, creating a unique challenge that felt like a physics puzzle. Halfway through at number 4, we have King's Quest. King's Quest was a groundbreaking graphic adventure on the PC, where Sir Graham explored Daventry to become king. Its colorful visuals and point-and-click style defined the genre. Sierra's Roberta Williams designed the game to blend storytelling with exploration, setting the stage for adventure games like Myst. Number 3 is Duck Hunt. Duck Hunt brought light gun shooting to the NES, with players zapping ducks and laughing at a taunting dog. Its simple yet addictive gameplay was a home console hit. The game's Zapper peripheral, bundled with the NES, made shooting feel immersive, even if that dog's smirk drove players wild. At number 2, we have Elite. Elite was a revolutionary space sim on the BBC Micro, letting players trade, fight, and explore a wireframe 3D galaxy. Its open-ended gameplay was light years ahead of its time. Creators David Braben and Ian Bell packed a vast universe into 22 kilobytes, inspiring modern space epics like No Man's Sky. And finally, at the top spot, number 1 is Tetris. Tetris was a puzzle phenomenon, born on a Soviet computer, where players stacked falling blocks to clear lines. Its simple yet endlessly engaging design became a global obsession. Alexei Pajitnov created Tetris during a programming experiment, unaware it would become one of gaming's most iconic titles. And there you have it, folks. The top 10 games of 1984, each a pioneer that shaped the future of gaming in arcades and homes. What's your favorite from this list? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this trip down memory lane, smash that like button and don't forget to subscribe. Up next, 1985. The year was 1985. Careless Whisper by Wham was stealing hearts on the radio. Back to the Future zoomed into theaters, and The Golden Girls brought sass to our TVs. But 1985 was also a monumental year for video games, with the Nintendo Entertainment System revolutionizing home gaming. Let's dive into the top 10 games that defined that year. Let's get started. Kicking things off at number 10, we have Commando. Commando was a relentless top-down shooter where players mowed down enemy soldiers with machine guns and grenades in a jungle war zone. Its fast-paced action kept arcades buzzing. Capcom's game, inspired by war films like Rambo, introduced vertical scrolling that became a staple for run-and-gun shooters. At number 9, let's talk about Gunsmoke. Gunsmoke was a Western-themed shooter where players rode through dusty towns, blasting outlaws in a vertically scrolling adventure. Its detailed sprites and intense gameplay were a hit. Capcom's game let players choose different paths through levels, adding a touch of strategy to its cowboy chaos. Number 8 brings us King's Quest II, Romancing the Throne. King's Quest continued Sir Graham's adventure on the PC, seeking love and treasure in a fairy tale world. Its graphic adventure style and charming story deepened the genre. Sierra's sequel, designed by Roberta Williams, expanded the series' scope with more puzzles and a romantic subplot. Sliding into number 7, we find Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego? Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego was an educational PC game that had players chasing a master thief across the globe, learning geography through clever detective work. Its edutainment blend was genius. Broderbund's game came with a free almanac, turning learning into a thrilling international pursuit. At number 6, we have Battle City. Battle City was a tank-based NES shooter where players defended their base from enemy tanks in maze-like levels. Its strategic combat and co-op mode were endlessly replayable. Namco's game, an evolution of Tank Battalion, let players upgrade tanks, adding depth to its simple but addictive formula. Number 5 is Gradius. Gradius was a side-scrolling space shooter that introduced the Vic Viper ship, with a power-up system letting players customize weapons. Its vibrant levels and music were arcade staples. Konami's game pioneered the power-up bar, letting players strategically build their ship's arsenal mid-battle. Halfway through at number 4, we have Ultimate 4, Quest of the Avatar. Ultimate 4 was a revolutionary RPG on PC, focusing on moral choices as players strive to become the Avatar through virtues like honor and compassion. Its narrative depth was groundbreaking. Richard Garriott's game shifted RPGs toward ethical storytelling, influencing modern role-playing epics. Number 3 is Gauntlet. Gauntlet was an arcade dungeon crawler where up to 4 players chose roles like warrior or elf to battle hordes in maze-like levels. Its co-op action was a quarter-munching frenzy. Atari's game used digitized voices shouting, "Wizard needs food badly," creating a chaotic, memorable multiplayer experience.
Say keys to open doors.
At number 2, we have Ghosts and Goblins. Ghosts and Goblins was a brutally tough arcade platformer where Knight Arthur battled undead hordes to save Princess Prin Prin. Its gothic art and punishing difficulty were iconic. Capcom's game, designed by Tokuro Fujiwara, set a standard for challenging platformers with its relentless enemy waves. And finally, at the top spot, number 1 is Super Mario Bros. Super Mario Bros. Redefined gaming on the NES, with Mario and Luigi running through the Mushroom Kingdom to rescue Princess Peach. Its tight controls and vibrant world were revolutionary. Shigeru Miyamoto's masterpiece sold millions, saving the gaming industry and launching a legendary franchise. And there you have it, folks. The top 10 games of 1985, each a pioneer that shaped the future of gaming in arcades and homes. What's your favorite from this list? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this trip down memory lane, smash that like button and don't forget to subscribe. Up next, 1986. The year was 1986. That's What Friends Are For by Dionne Warwick and Friends was tugging at heartstrings. Top Gun soared into theaters, and The Oprah Winfrey Show debuted on TV. But 1986 was also a legendary year for video games, with the NES cementing its place in homes and arcades, pushing creative boundaries. Let's dive into the top 10 games that defined that year. Let's get started. Kicking things off at number 10, we have Rampage. Rampage was an arcade smash, where players controlled giant monsters like George the Ape, wrecking cities and eating tanks. Its destructive chaos and co-op play were wildly fun. Midway's game let players live out monster movie fantasies, with each creature inspired by classics like King Kong and Godzilla. At number 9, let's talk about Arkanoid. Arkanoid was a breakout-style arcade game where players piloted a paddle-like ship, bouncing a ball to shatter bricks in space. Its addictive gameplay and power-ups kept players hooked. Taito's game came with a unique spinner controller, making every bounce feel precise and satisfying. Number 8 brings us Kid Icarus. Kid Icarus was an NES platformer, where Angel Pit battled through underworlds and skies to save the goddess Palutena. Its mix of platforming and Greek mythology was charming. Nintendo's game, developed alongside Metroid, shared its focus on exploration, with hidden rooms adding replayability. Sliding into number 7, we find Dragon Quest. Dragon Quest, known as Dragon Warrior in the West, was a groundbreaking RPG on the Famicom, sending players on a quest to slay the Dragon Lord. Its simple yet deep mechanics laid the RPG foundation. Yuji Horíi's game, inspired by Ultima and Wizardry, popularized turn-based battles in Japan. At number 6, we have Super Mario Bros. The Lost Levels. The Lost Levels was a brutally tough Famicom sequel with fiendish levels and tricky jumps. It pushed Mario's platforming to extremes. Nintendo deemed it too hard for Western release, replacing it with a reskinned Doki Doki Panic for the US. Number 5 is Bubble Bobble. Bubble Bobble was an arcade classic, where players as dragons Bub and Bob trapped enemies in bubbles across 100 levels. Its cute art and co-op gameplay were infectious. Taito's game hit a complex ending system, requiring specific items for the true finale, sparking arcade debates. Halfway through at number 4, we have Outrun. Outrun was a stylish arcade racer where players sped a Ferrari Testarossa along coastal roads, with branching paths and a killer synth soundtrack. Its visuals screamed 80's cool. Sega's game, designed by Yu Suzuki, used sprite scaling tech to create a smooth, immersive driving experience. Number 3 is Castlevania. Castlevania launched Konami's Gothic saga on the NES, with Simon Belmont whipping through Dracula's castle. Its tight platforming and haunting music set a horror action standard. The game's challenging design was inspired by classic monster movies, giving each boss a cinematic flair. At number 2, we have Metroid. Metroid was an NES pioneer, blending exploration and action as Samus Aran navigated Planet Zeeps. Its non-linear design and hidden power-ups redefined adventure games. Nintendo's game hid Samus' gender until the ending, a twist that surprised players and made her an enduring icon. And finally, at the top spot, number 1, is The Legend of Zelda. The Legend of Zelda was a revolutionary NES adventure, with Link exploring Hyrule to collect Triforce pieces. Its open world and dungeon puzzles set a new standard for gaming. Shigeru Miyamoto drew inspiration from his childhood explorations, crafting a game that felt like a grand quest. And there you have it, folks. The top 10 games of 1986, each a pioneer that shaped gaming's golden age. What's your favorite from this list? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this trip down memory lane, smash that like button. And don't forget to subscribe. Up next, 1987. The year was 1987. Walk Like an Egyptian by The Bangles was rocking the charts. The Princess Bride charmed theaters, and Full House warmed our TVs. But 1987 was also a defining year for video games, with the NES and arcades delivering iconic titles that shaped the industry. Let's dive into the top 10 games that defined that year. Let's get started. Kicking things off at number 10, we have Final Fantasy. Final Fantasy debuted on the Famicom, launching Square's epic RPG series with a tale of 4 light warriors saving the world. Its deep story and turn-based battles were groundbreaking. Hironobu Sakaguchi named it Final as a last-ditch effort to save his career, birthing a legendary franchise. At number 9, let's talk about Maniac Mansion. Maniac Mansion was a point-and-click adventure on PC, where players rescued Sandy from a mad scientist's mansion. Its quirky humor and multiple endings set a new standard for storytelling. Lucasfilm Games' Scum engine, created for the game, powered many classic adventures like Monkey Island. Number 8 brings us Mega Man. Mega Man introduced Capcom's Blue Bomber on the NES, with tight platforming and the ability to steal defeated bosses' weapons. Its vibrant levels and rockin' soundtrack were instant classics. The game's creator, Keiji Inafune, designed Mega Man to feel like a sci-fi anime hero, inspiring a massive series. Sliding into number 7, we find Super Contra. Super Contra built on its predecessor with more intense run-and-gun action, pitting players against alien hordes in arcades. Its co-op gameplay and explosive set pieces kept quarters flowing. Konami's sequel upped the ante with new weapons like the spread gun, amplifying the chaotic thrill. At number 6, we have Sid Meier's Pirates. Sid Meier's Pirates was a swashbuckling sim on PC, blending sailing, trading, and sword fighting in the Caribbean. Its open-ended gameplay let players live as pirates or privateers. The game's dynamic world, where you could woo governors' daughters or raid ports, made every journey a unique adventure. Number 5 is R-Type. R-Type was a side-scrolling shooter that set arcades ablaze with its biomechanical enemies and strategic power-up system. Its challenging stages and iconic Bido Empire were unforgettable. Irem's game introduced the Force Pod, a detachable orb that revolutionized shooter mechanics with its versatility. Halfway through at number 4, we have Metal Gear. Metal Gear launched Hideo Kojima's Stealth Saga on the MSX2, with Solid Snake infiltrating a fortress to stop a superweapon. Its focus on avoiding combat was revolutionary for action games. The game was inspired by films like The Great Escape, shaping Kojima's cinematic approach to storytelling. Number 3 is Double Dragon. Double Dragon was an arcade beat-em-up where brothers Billy and Jimmy fought to rescue Marion. Its co-op brawling and gritty urban setting made it a genre-defining hit. Technos Japan's game let players use weapons like bats, adding a layer of strategy to its street-fighting chaos. At number 2, we have Contra. Contra was a run-and-gun masterpiece on the NES, where players battled alien invaders with iconic weapons like the spread gun. Its fast-paced co-op action was pure adrenaline. Konami's game included the famous Konami Code, granting 30 lives and becoming a gaming culture legend. And finally, at the top spot, number 1 is Mike Tyson's Punch-Out! Mike Tyson's Punch-Out! Put players in the ring as Little Mac on the NES, dodging and weaving against colorful boxers like Soda Popinski and Mike Tyson himself. Its timing-based combat was addictive. Nintendo's game was inspired by real boxing stars, with Tyson's inclusion making it a cultural phenomenon. And there you have it, folks. The top 10 games of 1987, each a pioneer that shaped gaming's golden age. What's your favorite from this list? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this trip down memory lane, smash that like button, and don't forget to subscribe. Up next, 1988. The year was 1988. Sweet Child O' Mine by Guns N' Roses was rocking the charts. Die Hard exploded into theaters, and Roseanne brought family comedy to our TVs. But 1988 was also an epic year for video games, with the NES dominating homes and arcades pushing boundaries. Let's dive into the top 10 games that defined that year. Let's get started. Kicking things off at number 10, we have Ghouls and Ghosts. Ghouls and Ghosts was Capcom's punishing arcade sequel to Ghosts and Goblins, with Knight Arthur battling demons in a gothic nightmare. Its improved visuals and brutal difficulty were legendary. The game introduced new weapons like the dagger, keeping players on edge with its relentless enemy hordes. At number 9, let's talk about John Madden Football. John Madden Football kicked off EA's sports legacy on PC with realistic football mechanics and play-by-play commentary inspired by the iconic coach. Its strategic depth hooked sports fans. EA worked with Madden himself to ensure authenticity, making it one of the first Sims to feel like real football. Number 8 brings us Snatcher. Snatcher was a cyberpunk adventure on the PC 8801, blending point-and-click investigation with a Blade Runner-inspired story of android hunters. Its narrative depth was groundbreaking. Hideo Kojima's early work on Snatcher showcased his knack for cinematic storytelling, setting the stage for Metal Gear. Sliding into number 7, we find Altered Beast. Altered Beast was Sega's arcade and Genesis hit, where players transformed into beasts to battle undead hordes. Its Rise from Your Grave voice line echoed in arcades. The game's transformation mechanic, letting players become wolves or dragons, was a flashy draw for Sega's new console. At number 6, we have Dragon Quest III. Dragon Quest III was a Famicom RPG masterpiece in Japan, introducing a class system where players customized their party to defeat the demon lord Baramos. Its scope was massive. Yuji Hoри's game sold over 1 million copies in a day in Japan, cementing the RPG genre's popularity. Number 5 is Double Dragon 2, The Revenge. Double Dragon 2. The Revenge amped up the arcade beat-em-up with co-op brawling, new moves, and a darker story of vengeance. Its urban grit kept players punching, Technos Japan added a dramatic intro cutscene, a rarity in 1988, making the Lee brothers' quest feel cinematic. At number 4, we have Super Mario Bros. 2. Super Mario 2 brought a quirky NES adventure to the West, with Mario, Luigi, Peach, and Toad lifting veggies to battle Wart. Its dreamlike world stood out from the original. Adapted from Japan's Doki Doki Panic, Nintendo reskinned it with Mario characters for Western audiences. Number 3 is Ninja Gaiden. Ninja Gaiden was a blistering NES action platformer with Ryu Hayabusa slicing through enemies in a cinematic tale of revenge. Its tight controls and brutal difficulty were iconic. Tecmo's game used cutscenes to tell a gripping story, a bold move that made it feel like an interactive ninja film. At number 2, we have Mega Man 2. Mega Man 2 refined Capcom's NES formula, with 8 robot masters, iconic weapons like the Metal Blade, and a stellar soundtrack. Its polish made it a fan favorite. Capcom nearly scrapped the sequel due to budget concerns, but the team's passion delivered one of gaming's greatest. And finally, at the top spot, we find Super Mario Bros. 3. Mario 3 was an NES masterpiece, with Mario exploring diverse worlds, new power-ups like the Tanuki suit, and a massive scope. Its platforming perfection redefined gaming. Shigeru Miyamoto's vision introduces world maps and secrets, making every level a treasure hunt for players. And there you have it, folks. The top 10 games of 1988. Each a pioneer that shaped gaming's golden age. What's your favorite from this list? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this trip down memory lane, smash that like button, and don't forget to subscribe. Up next, 1989. The year was 1989. Back to the Future Part 2 was flying high in theaters. Sweet Child O' Mine by Guns N' Roses was still rocking the airwaves, and Seinfeld debuted on TV, changing comedy forever. But 1989 was also a stellar year for video games, with the NES thriving and new genres emerging on home computers. Let's dive into the top 10 games that defined that year. Let's get started. Kicking things off at number 10, we have Populous. Populous was a groundbreaking God game on PC, where players shaped terrain and guided followers as a deity, battling rival gods. Its innovative simulation captivated players. Bullfrog's game, designed by Peter Molyneux, was one of the first to let players play God, influencing strategy games like Civilization. At number 9, let's talk about Final Fight. Final Fight was Capcom's arcade beat-em-up, where players as Hagar or Cody fought through Metro City's gangs to save Jessica. Its gritty action and co-op play were electrifying. The game's massive sprites and detailed environments pushed arcade hardware, setting a new standard for the genre. Number 8 brings us Golden Axe. Golden Axe was Sega's arcade and Genesis hack-and-slash hit, with warriors battling fantasy foes and riding dragons. Its visceral combat and vibrant art were a thrill. The game's magic attacks, unleashed with dramatic animations, let players feel like epic heroes in a Conan-inspired world. Sliding into number 7, we find Castlevania 3, Dracula's Curse. Castlevania 3, Dracula's Curse was an NES masterpiece, with Trevor Belmont battling Dracula across branching paths and multiple characters. Its gothic atmosphere and music were haunting. Konami's game added new playable characters like Sypha, offering varied playstyles that deepened its replayability. At number 6, we have Super Mario Land. Super Mario Land brought Mario to the Game Boy. adventuring through Sarasaland to save Princess Daisy. Its compact levels and catchy tunes were perfect for portable play. Nintendo's first handheld Mario adapted the series' charm to a tiny screen, making it a Game Boy launch standout. Number 5 is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles was Konami's NES action game, letting players switch between Leonardo, Donatello, Raphael, and Michelangelo to battle Shredder. Its cartoon-inspired action was a hit. The game's tough difficulty and sewer stages captured the Turtles' 80s TV show vibe perfectly. Halfway through at number 4, we have DuckTales. DuckTales was a Capcom NES gem, with Scrooge McDuck pogo jumping through global adventures to collect treasure. Its tight platforming and Disney charm were irresistible. The game's moon theme, composed by Yoshihiro Sakaguchi, became one of gaming's most iconic and beloved tracks. Number 3 is Minesweeper. Minesweeper was a deceptively simple PC puzzle game, challenging players to clear a grid of hidden bombs using logic and numbers. Its minimalist design was endlessly addictive. Originally a prototype by Microsoft's Kurt Johnson, it became a Windows staple, teaching millions to strategize under pressure. At number 2, we have Prince of Persia. Prince of Persia was a cinematic platformer on the Apple II, with fluid animations and intense sword fights as the prince saved his love from an evil vizier. Its realism was groundbreaking. Jordan Mechner used rotoscoped footage of his brother to create the prince's lifelike movements, a first for games. And finally, at the top spot, number 1 is SimCity. SimCity let players build and manage their own city on PC, balancing budgets and disasters in a dynamic urban sim. Its open-ended creativity redefined gaming possibilities. Will Wright's game, inspired by urban planning books, sparked the simulation genre, influencing everything from The Sims to cities, skylines. And there you have it, folks. The top 10 games of 1989, each a pioneer that shaped gaming's golden age. What's your favorite from this list? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this trip down memory lane, smash that like button and don't forget to subscribe. Up next, 1990.